a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Notice what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Just been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner Horror Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal, Tony. What's going on, Tony?
What's going on, brother?
Nothing much. How you been?
I've been good, man. How you been?
I've been great. Just a heads up. Unfortunately, Daniel cannot be with us tonight, but we are moving on with a discussion on David Cronenberg. But first and foremost, I wanted to talk about just some of the platforms we are on. We are on basically all platforms, and in fact, if you just Google us, we'll pop up on something, and you can just listen in. If you're a first-time listener, we appreciate having you. And if you haven't been already, check us out on our Facebook group. That seems to be where we're most active. Just go to the search engine on Facebook, type in the Midnight Monster Corner podcast, and we'll pop up, and you ask nicely, and we'll let you join, and just join the discussion, and awesome stuff. And also, you can also catch me on TikTok at Midnight Monster 20. So we're there, and I believe Frosty has a Instagram. If you go to Instagram and you check out DPG Frosty, and he's there. But yeah. Also, I wanted to bring up, Tony, do you know that the last episode got like 291 views? Well, not the last episode. So it was the video drone and the scanners. Yeah. But that one had like 291 views on YouTube alone. That was awesome. So we appreciate the views, and keep them coming, guys, because that's what's driving us. This is what's keeping us going.
Absolutely, yeah.
But,
absolutely, we definitely appreciate that. That just kind of skyrocketed. So that kind of just blew me away when I found out about that. You told me about that. I couldn't believe it, man. But really, it all goes to the guys tuning in out there. I mean, we really appreciate the support. We're having a blast doing it. And like I said, it's driving force for us to have, that turnout like that. It really it really puts things into perspective for us to have us, keep going down this rabbit hole. So we appreciate it, really.
Yeah, definitely. Now, so we're this episode obviously is the last episode of January, and we're going to do like kind of an overview of David Cronenberg and just talk about his life work and everything. Well, at least the horror stuff, because I haven't checked out obviously stuff that's not horror related that he's done. But Tony, first thoughts with David Cronenberg.
First thoughts with me, Cronenberg, one of my favorite directors. His body of work has always been consistent. You can go down the line from his first movie to, I'm with you, Corey. I haven't really checked out a lot of his non-horror, but when you just specifically say his horror output, there's just so much quality, and it just goes to show that he's tireless in his craft, and he really puts out just amazing movies. He just does. It's been so fun this whole month, like going back and checking out his earlier work, and then leading up to, our last review of The Fly. Just you can see his progression and how just amazing he was able to like take things that didn't quite work for him maybe in the earlier movies, and then didn't actually master it and put out just amazing quality in the 80s, which is his heyday for sure. But yeah, he's always been one of my favorite directors. I've always consistently said how underrated of a director he was. When you talk about masters of horror, Cronenberg definitely sits on that for me. especially since he kind of carved his own way with body horror. Um, that being his go to. I mean, he was just the master at it. He still is. I mean, no one does body horror like Cronenberg does.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. I want to kind of jump back to what you said because you can really see a progression that
Mhm.
he's undertaken almost, And I guess that's with any director really, but with him you can definitely tell like his first couple films that he did, you could tell he was almost kind of uncomfortable with certain things, and you could even tell that, he was shooting for an audience that just really wasn't there at the time,
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
and because I mean, with the earlier years, like for instance, Shivers, there was a lot of stuff that happened in that film that really didn't fly according to the rating system at the time,
Hmm.
and there was just a progression from that film up,
Right.
but I guess in a sense, I was kind of a closeted Cronenberg fan in a sense because I watched The Fly as a young child, and that one always stood out to me. It was always a fun film.
Hmm.
Um, I even remember I forget where I was, but I was at a I'm wanting to say I was at Universal Studios as a young child, and I saw the pods there. Obviously they weren't the pods. And I'll have to figure out where I was. Maybe I was at MGM or something, but I remember seeing the pods in person and some of the props and stuff from that film. So that's really always kind of stood out to me, and I've always had a special love for that because it was
Yeah.
very nostalgic for me.
Absolutely.
Um, but and up through the progression, you can see where David Cronenberg has inspired lots of films.
Mm.
The body horror isn't where it is today without David Cronenberg, I don't think. You
Yep.
know, because like
Absolutely.
for instance, you look at like The Fly, okay? And instantly when I'm watching The Fly now, I'm sitting there going, "Holy shit, he looks exactly like Septic Man." You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. That's a good one to throw out there. Septic Man. Yeah. You can definitely tell he has his people that pay homage to him, and
Mhm.
a lot of their films. You know, it's like I said, when you're talking about the master of body horror, you're talking about David Cronenberg. I mean, the guys that do it now, the younger generation, they do it because they're influenced by Cronenberg's work. I mean, it shows on screen. A lot of those guys, I mean, it's not so subtle. They really like put it out there like, hey, I've seen on a couple of when I'm watching some movies, I'm like, oh, that's really is that an homage to this film by Cronenberg or that film? And I'll look it up. I'm like, yeah, well, they fully admit to being influenced by him, and that was a direct homage, and that was it was intentional. So um,
Yeah.
he's definitely got his. And I'm so glad too because I mean a lot of people they have homages to Cronenberg, excuse me, Carpenter, a lot of the horror masters, Romero, this and that, and then Cronenberg deserves it too because he's been waving that flag for the horror genre for a long time, and I mean
Mhm.
it's unfortunate now that he hasn't really done a horror film in a long time. I really wish he would. Maybe his son being, this young up and coming horror director will kind of kickstart him into maybe doing another couple of horror flicks. Who knows? You just never know. But we can always hope because it would be great to see a horror film from Cronenberg again.
Yeah, I agree to that. Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing one that was co-directed with him and Brandon, kind of like a father-son
Uh,
project.
that would be so cool.
I
That would
think
be
that would be really
that would
cool.
be a really
Yeah.
special, like really special film if that were the case. I mean, I know, even when you watch Brandon's stuff, like you can tell he's got a little bit of his dad's influence in him too. I mean, I just recently sat down and watched Possessor for the first time over the weekend, and yeah, you can definitely tell. Like, but he has his own style as well. He has his own he kind of like puts his own mark on it in a way, but you can definitely tell that there's a little bit of influence there from his father too. So it's really cool to see him, and I know this is his second film, and actually both of his films, Antiviral and Possessor, I both really really enjoyed. And you can also tell from him, there's I know it's early, 2 films in, but you can definitely tell the progression from Antiviral to Possessor. You can see it. He's evolving as a filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool to see that, man. He's almost kind of follow, and I know he probably doesn't want to be compared to his father, or say, hey, you're doing what your dad did, or anything like that. But it comes with the territory. When you talk about a legend like Cronenberg, kind of comes with the comes with it. So it's a lot better to be compared to a master of horror like his dad than anything else. That's a pretty big badge of honor right there, especially
Yeah.
just 2 films in.
Yeah. I will say that. So I haven't seen The Possessor, and honestly, it's just the matter of me finding the right copy. But I do have a copy of Antiviral, and I have watched it. It's been a while since I've watched it, but from what I remember of that film, it is really fun.
Oh,
Um,
good
and
point.
just from that film alone, I can tell where he's kind of progressing in his father's footsteps a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, because it is it's very fine line. It's very sci-fi-ish yet out of this world, but strangely still horror related.
No,
And that's exactly the way that I depict most of Cronenberg's horror films. Is they're out of this world. They're somewhat sci-fi-ish, but yet they are also horror related.
oh, yeah, like he doesn't
Um,
lose that in his films. You can definitely tell they're genre films.
yes.
The stamp is there. It's been stamped, and it's grade A.
Yes, it is. Um, but yeah, so with that though, if you guys haven't seen any of Brandon's work, go out and check him out.
Oh, please
I
do.
know, I know. What was it? I don't know. I don't. So right now you can get Possessor pretty much anywhere, except for Amazon for some reason. You can get the 4K version off of Amazon, but that's pretty much about it. Um, Antiviral. Uh, I bought it strictly because it was a IFC midnight film, and I was boosting up my IFCs. Um, but you could probably find that one anywhere too.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think
I'm
Walmart
sure
carries
that
them
I'm
anymore.
pretty sure that one's readily available.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen Antiviral, go check it out because it is awesome. And Tony, you recommend Possessor, obviously.
I very much do. Possessor was a big surprise for me. It's probably one of my favorite films of 2020. As far as horror goes, it blew me away. It's very cool. It's one of those movies you have to watch, you know, a couple times to really like get everything. It's what is a deeper movie than you might think. It's something you'd have to check out a few times, but that's the thing about it. It's one of those movies where you watch it, and after you watch it, you know, like a day or two goes by and it sticks with you. You think about it. It leaves its mark on you, and that's the sign of a good film when it has you thinking about it a couple days after watching it. So that one definitely did for me. I love the premise. I love everything that's going on. And I did, I talked. We had a conversation about the difference between cuts and just the 4K being the uncut, the fully uncut version. And I kind of did a little bit of research and found out that it's only cut, I think, by maybe a minute or so. So it's not really, really butchered. And I think the more, explicit nudity and stuff was what was cut. And then there's one in particular gore scene that was cut. Um, but other than that, the copy that we got, or the copy that I found, was it's not too far off. It's not butchered as much as I initially thought it was. So that's why I finally said, you know what, I'm going to check it out. And I popped it in, and I'm glad I did, dude. It did not disappoint.
Nice. Oh yeah. Yeah, kind of going back to inspiration work and stuff, Um, obviously we did Scanners 2 weeks ago and we were talking about it, and I decided to finally watch Mind's Eye.
Oh yeah,
And
okay.
and again, if for the listeners, if you haven't seen this film, you need to go check it out because it's awesome. Um, the practical effects alone were amazing in this film. The action sequences were awesome. Everything about this film was awesome. And you could tell there was a sure dedication to this film as well.
Yeah.
But you could also tell a lot of it, not just from the story, but practically a lot of stuff in the film um, was kind of revolved around Scanners a little bit. You can definitely tell that this film was heavily influenced by Scanners. And
Absolutely. So what we were talking about earlier with these younger, because that's a Joe Begos film, and I know Joe Begos is a huge horror like aficionado. He's a big fan, massive fan, and his output so far has been absolutely incredible as well. And but you could tell he has influences too, because he's grown up watching these movies, and he incorporates this stuff into his movies, but also has his own style. So he is a really, really talented filmmaker. He's definitely a guy you want to keep your eye on because,
mhm.
like you said, Mind's Eye definitely tell the Scanner's influence.
Well, it just goes back to my statement that I said a while back. I think we did the when we did the Crossbear episode,
Yeah.
and we were talking about um, indie filmmakers and stuff, and essentially, I've always said this, but the independent films that are being made are made by fans for the fans,
For the fans,
you
yeah.
know. And even Adam Albrecht contacted me and told me that that was an exact true statement.
Hmm.
And that's just something I've always kind of agreed with myself when I watch an indie film and stuff like that. 'Cause I believe in Joe Begos, he's independent pretty much, isn't he?
I think his last few films have been studio, but I definitely started out independent for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but I think maybe not. I'm not quite sure. I don't know 100%, but I just know he definitely has his own style and what he throws at you on screen. Maybe maybe studios wouldn't be behind this, so maybe he's still independent because yeah, especially a movie like VFW and Bliss, like I just don't. Those definitely aren't studio films because
Yeah.
there's a lot of crazy shit going on. But he's a talented dude. I love his output and he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. He's another one of those guys. And I know we talked about doing a you know, uh, an independent like horror director episode, like a spotlight episode or something like that. So I could probably, get more into that if we ever do that episode. But yeah, he's definitely somebody you want to keep an eye on.
Oh yeah, yeah. I like most of his work actually. From what I've seen, all his work that I've seen so far, I've liked. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Almost Human was a good one. That's one I think we sat down and watched together.
yeah.
First movie it's actually his first movie and the first movie I've ever seen of him. So yeah, that was a fun experience checking that out.
Yeah. But yeah, back to Cronenberg though. Pretty much, you know what? I'm kind of glad we did this month on Cronenberg films because we sat down, we revisited films that we haven't watched in a while.
Mhm.
You know, and I've watched some that I've never seen before. I think Dead Zone was the first time watch for both of us, and that was a,
Yep.
that was a fun watch alone.
Yep. It was.
Um, I didn't know Christopher Walken's true acting skills until I watched that film,
Oh
because I
yeah.
always I always thought he was more tongue in cheek and everything and just comical, and that was a very serious role, and I
Oh
was
yeah.
glad that he was casted for that. And it almost seems like Cronenberg knows who he's going to cast for certain roles.
Right. We had a conversation. I think it was on our video drone episode of how Cronenberg just had a knack for picking these actors that have personality and just charisma, like guys like James Woods and Walken, and he has that way about him. He finds
Oh,
those guys, and of course Jeff Goldblum being the big one. He finds those characters. I mean, in real life, these guys are like almost larger than life. In their personal life. So,
mm,
they just exude charisma on screen. He's just had a good run, especially in the 80s. He had a good run with that. Even Art Hindle to me, I like Art Hindle, and then The Brood, he's fun. I enjoy his performance and I would throw him in there too. I mean, just guys that are you kind of root for these guys, and some of them can be a little rough around the edges, but you just still root for them.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Okay, so I think I said this on the last episode. It almost seems like Cronenberg wrote specific characters, like for that person. You know what I mean?
These actors, yeah.
I couldn't see Jeff Goldblum not doing The Fly. I couldn't see James Wood not doing Videodrone playing
Yeah,
Max.
yeah, for
So
sure.
all the way down to even like the secondary characters. Gina Davis. She was perfect in that role. I
Yeah.
couldn't see anyone else really playing that role.
Oh yeah, like I said, she was phenomenal with the way she handled the acting and just she really shines in that movie. I keep saying that she shines in that movie. Um, she stands tall on that and really just yeah, man, her way of handling the emotions in that movie just are just amazing to me. You really feel for her character, you really do.
You really do. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like I said, dude, I'm completely with like he just has a way, and even we brought this up too. Cronenberg has a lot of familiar faces in his movies that show up. You see the same cast of actors in this movie and that movie from him. He likes to stick to his regulars a lot, and it's you definitely see like especially going back and watching them all in a row like that. You're like, oh, that guy's familiar. Saw him in the last one, or yeah, he's in the third. He's in this third one now, and yeah, you just go through and see him, and it's like, oh, I like when directors, most directors do that. They find their group of people and they stick with them because they work so
Mhm.
well. So it's cool
Yeah.
to see that Cronenberg has his own cast of characters as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that he does. He like you said, you could watch one film and like what we did with the reviews this month, where we would watch one film and see another person in another film, and I think I would message you, or I
Yeah,
would message the group and just tell everyone, hey, did you notice that this guy's in this film? He was in the last one we watched, and so it's
yeah,
pretty cool.
absolutely, dude.
But yeah, and then let's talk about his work of art from Canada, obviously. So most of his films take place in Canada, or they were shot in Canada. I never realized that I had an appreciation for Canadian films until now. And that was kind of the fun of this month. Also, is just kind of falling in love with the film industry from Canada. 'Cause, I mean, even like I mean, we've all watched like My Bloody Valentine. We know that that was set and filmed in Canada. And then, I always thought that there wasn't many horror films from Canada, and I was kind of wrong to that statement.
There's so many amazing classic films from Canada. It's mind blowing to me. Um, of course, you got Black Christmas, and The Changeling. I was champion that movie. It's fucking brilliant. There's just so many, dude. I love Canadian horror films. I do. Um, I mean, up there for me is some of my favorites. But Cronenberg stays true to his roots, and I know in the beginning of his film career, he had trouble getting financing in Canada for his movies and stuff like that. So I think at one point before he shot Shivers, that he was thinking about coming to America and you know getting into Hollywood, but fortunately he was able to get funding and started production, and I'm so glad he did because just his output, from then on there, these movies feel Canadian. They do. You get a feel for him. It's special because that's him. He from Canada. He wears wears it on the sleeve. It's what he knows and stuff like that. I don't know if he would have had the same success if he would have jumped out the gate and came to Hollywood and started shooting movies for studios. I mean, who knows? Who knows what could happen? That's it's the great unknown. But still, I mean, I'm so glad he was able to that ship was able to write for him and he was able to get the funding that he needed. What could have been, right?
Yeah.
we wouldn't have had these classics. I mean, it just wouldn't have happened. So,
Yeah.
thankfully, things played out the way they did.
Yes. Well, that's kind of what I was saying. As far as you could definitely tell with his first couple films, he was almost kind of a little uncomfortable,
Mhm.
because I'm sure their rating system was a little different than America's, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure like some of the stuff that he wrote in the script was probably one of the reasons why he couldn't get funded for some of the films. It was almost like he was kind of pushing the buck a little bit, seeing how
Yeah.
far he could take it.
Yeah.
And that's why I strongly believe that there's like not a whole lot of nudity. There's not a whole lot of sleaziness to his films, stuff like that. Whereas to like, we've got American producers here and directors here who, you know, are known for their sleaziness and nudity throughout their films and stuff.
Yeah, and the violence, gotta push it, gotta push it. It's got to be in the forefront.
Yeah.
Cronenberg's films make you think. I mean, they open your mind up to a lot of things, and that's one thing I appreciate from him is that his films just work on your psyche, and they get you so engaged. They leave you with metaphors. They leave you with you know, they stick with you, and that's what, like I said, when I watched Possessor, it's a movie that even from his son that just stuck with me for a couple of days after watching it. Like, huh, maybe you want to watch it, right afterwards again, like just pop it in again and see it. But like he just has a knack of doing that. For me, anyway, and I can speak for myself. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of other people that would probably agree with that as well. But they stick with you, dude.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Definitely
Definitely.
do.
And even like right now, I'm still thinking, thinking back of, just the reviews that we've done and just sitting down and watching those films and stuff. I know we were planning on doing Dead Ringers. Have you ever watched Dead Ringers?
No, I have not. I did pick up the DVD finally, so I will be checking that out very soon because that is one I definitely want to see. I've been wanting to see for a while, so luckily I finally found a copy, and yeah, setting aside a good time to check that out. As a matter of fact, we did talk about doing a review on that one for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't get a copy right away and stuff. And
Oh, yeah, it's tough to get a copy. It was for a little bit. For me, it was anyway. And then luckily, I was able to find one at our buddy Eric's shop. Just heading in there, it's like, oh shit, finally! And I saw it on the shelf and pulled it, and I'm like, yeah. So yeah, definitely had to take that home with me. It's one in his filmography that was sorely lacking in my collection. So to find that was a really it was a gem.
yeah.
And
Have you ever have you ever seen Crash?
I have not seen Crash, but I've heard a lot about it.
I have too. I've heard a lot of people praise that film, and I've never seen it.
Well, the premise is fucking out there. It really is, dude. It's a bizarre fucking premise. I mean, it,
Care to
it's
elaborate?
it. Well, so apparently it's a movie about people that get off on getting into car crashes. Like they get sexual thrills out of it. So yeah, it's it's fucking weird
That
premise, man.
that's odd.
Yeah, like I said, very odd, but yeah, that's what it's about. Or from what I've heard from people. Like I said, I haven't seen it before, so I can't elaborate fully, but that's the gist of it.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah, but I mean, eventually, yeah, I do want to, like I said, the couple that I haven't seen, like Dead Ringers, and then when I finally get that one watched, I want to go through and really like see what his non-horror output is about, because like I
Mhm.
said, it just had never dawned on me to really sit down and watch his like a history of violence and stuff like that, like Crash, stuff like that. I've never, seeked out and checked out. So I kind of need to right that wrong, and because he is just a brilliant filmmaker, so I would love to see what all he has to offer, not just in the horror side of things, but with everything he was able to direct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I wouldn't mind checking into because he's definitely well diverse, I guess you would say, as far as his filmmaking. I've heard he makes some really good films outside of his horror and sci-fi stuff.
Right.
And even down to his acting. Apparently, he acts in a couple films, and I think I pulled up Jason X as well, and I don't think you even knew about that.
No, I had no idea. I haven't seen that movie in so long, but yeah, if I did, I completely forgot. But like he said, like we've talked about, he always seems to play the doctor, and
Yeah,
his
it's that.
was
Well, looking back at some films, you can see where he acted in some of them, and it's let's see, he plays a hospital lawyer in a film, and then he plays a Henry and Verlin, Doc Fisher. I mean, he plays the doctor in a good bit of films,
well,
even down
even
to
back
The
to that,
Fly.
yeah, even back to what we're talking about with I think it was Martin Scorsese that said, "Hey, when he met him, he's like, man, you just remind me of like a Beverly Hills doctor," and he does have that look, like he he seems to, and I mean, he's a very smart guy, very articulate. Um, you could totally see him being a doctor, and like in real life, like he's just a smart dude. So, and he's like very well spoken, and like I said, I love listening to his. I'll get on YouTube and listen to interviews with him, and he's just like you could just listen to him talk for days. He'd
Yeah.
almost be like a teacher at film school or something. Like he's just brilliant.
Well, he
So,
almost has like a certain class to him, you know.
oh yeah, definitely, yeah,
And
definitely.
I think that definitely shines in his filmmaking as well. I think there's a lot of his films shine on the fact that he's kind of a classy person,
Oh yeah,
in a sense.
yeah,
Even
definitely care.
down to like the
Oh,
pictures I see of him, he looks like a very classy guy.
yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely. But when we talk about like as far as movies he's acted in, the one I always go to is Nightbreed. When he was in Nightbreed, oh man, that was a that was fucking cool. He
I think
played
I've only watched that once with you actually.
yeah, he played Dr. Decker in that movie, and yeah, he was fucking awesome. He's just so cold and calculated, and like he was great in that.
It's awesome.
Like you have Cronenberg and Clive Barker together. Like, how can you go wrong?
It's definitely quite a pair.
Definitely.
Um, yeah. What's your so obviously on the horror side of things you've mainly watched of his. What would you say is your favorite film by him?
Oh man, I don't want to sound cliche or anything like that, but I mean, how can I not pick The Fly? It's just so fucking good, man.
It is.
Actually, I did a list of my, the ones that we reviewed. Well, not the ones we reviewed. I did a top five with my favorite Cronenberg films.
Hmm.
Um, and The Fly is definitely on top of my list. Not to be anticlimactic, but it definitely tops it for me. With Videodrome coming in a close second, I think Videodrome is just as brilliant.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I would say definitely The Fly. Actually, so my favorite from him would definitely be The Fly being number one. Um, and then it just falls down from there. Scanners, The Brood would be number three for me.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my third as well.
Video Drone would be number four for me, but Yeah, number 5 would probably be um The Dead Zone,
Wow. Okay.
definitely.
Nice, dude. Yeah,
So
mine rounds out to I swapped my 2 and 4 with you. So Videodrome's my second, and The Brood would be my third. Scanners is my fourth, and Shivers is my fifth.
hmm,
Really, really enjoyed Shivers.
well, the reason why I say The Dead Zone was because that was a fun first experience for me.
Oh, it
So,
definitely was. I was really taken back by that movie.
and even Rabid was a first for me as well.
Yeah.
Mhm. But like I said, accidentally I had found out about that film due to me watching the actual remake first, and that was kind of an accidental whole situation. My wife had actually picked that up for me, kind of like a blind buy for my birthday, and I sat down and I watched it, and I was blown away. And then when I watched behind the scenes, they were like, "Yeah, this is a great remake," and I was like, "Oh, this is a remake." And so that's when I like searched back and I found David Cronenberg did Rabid years ago. So
What's the cool thing about that is the Rabbit remake is directed by the Soska sisters, who are also Canadian. So
yeah,
yeah, nice little tidbit there. But yeah, I still want to watch that, man. I still gotta like pick that up or something and check that out because I've
uh,
been wanting to watch it. You spoke highly of that remake,
oh, it's
and
so fun.
we've talked a lot about very good modern horror remakes, and I wonder if that would kind of be up there on the list of good.
Yeah, maybe we need to do a month dedicated to horror remakes. That would be interesting.
Oh yeah, I
I
would
would I would
be down for
definitely
that.
love to do a review on Rabid.
Because I mean, as horror fans, that remakes get a bad rap. They really do. People most of the time, people are already down on them before they even see them.
Mhm.
So it's like you just expect to hate it. But if you go into them with an open mind, a lot of times you'll be pleasantly surprised. So yeah, I would love to do an episode on that, dude, for sure.
That would be fun.
I
Yeah,
would.
and it goes back. It honestly goes back to me, because like I don't like to give remakes. I guess you would say I don't give them the benefit of the doubt. I hear that a remake is happening, and instantly I'm already like, how can you do that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you get the
But
like.
I end up giving it a chance, and sometimes, 9 times out of 10, I'm actually blown away. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be jaded. I'm not gonna lie. I used to be jaded and say, hey, it's fucking still like I used to get on that. Well, oh, you're gonna tarnish the legacy of the original. Like, honestly, dude, you don't tarnish the legacy of the original because the original's, it has a foundation already that's been set because it's being remade. So how would you tarnish it? I mean, it's a great movie regardless of whether it's being remade or not. You can disconnect. You don't have to see it as, you know, a direct remake. You can look at it as this film is like the Black Christmas remake is a good example. Like the Black Christmas is one of my favorite horror films of all time.
Mhm.
And I know that remake just came out not too long ago. It gets shat on by everybody. I've never seen it, so I can't speak to it. But it doesn't tarnish the legacy of the original Black Christmas to me. The Black Christmas is still going to be one of my favorite horror films of all time, regardless of how shitty the remake is. So I never understood that argument. Never really made any sense to me. But yeah, I just like I said, I can't wrap my head around it. But the fact it's funny that a lot of Cronenberg films have not been remade. It's pretty interesting. Like The Brood hasn't been remade. Shivers hasn't been remade. Like it's pretty fascinating that I think he's only had one remake. When you got guys like Carpenter, their films have been remade to death. You have, you know, it's kind of crazy to think about. Just
Yeah.
one that was recent. You know,
Yeah.
maybe people are intimidated by remaking a Cronenberg flick. I don't know. It's just we've only had one though. So
I mean, you look at like films like The Fly.
Mhm.
You really sit there and ponder the idea, huh?
Which was a remake, of course. So that would be
Yeah.
kind of a, but it's been done before.
Hmm.
People, well, no, that's not technically a remake. It's a prequel, a thing. But it's almost shot like a remake, though.
Hmm. But I mean, you can honestly sit there and like I can't see The Fly being remade right,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
or even Brood for that matter. Like that would it's almost like you thinking, how the hell am I going to pull that off?
You're right.
Um,
That's the one movie when we talked about it. That's the one movie that I'm really surprised hasn't been remade from his filmography. It's something like The Brood. I'm surprised someone hasn't taken that premise and kind of tweaked it a little bit and done their own kind of spin on it.
yeah, which I mean would be an interesting concept, or you know, I wouldn't mind seeing if somebody else can kind of top it, but
Well, that I don't know if that'll ever happen, but
yeah, exactly.
maybe
It
we'll
would be
try.
really hard.
Yeah, with a lot, like I said, with remakes though, when you think about it, it's like it's in horror fans' minds. There's no way that these remakes could top the original, like because the originals are so near and dear to their hearts. So you just can't look past it and say even if the movie was good. I mean, I've heard people say, "Hey, the Hills Have Eyes remake is better than the original and shit like that." Like I've heard it. It's not a you know a stretch of an idea, but also it's like it very very hard to even think about a modern remake being better than the original.
Yeah.
So that's why when it comes to remakes, you kind of want to remake a movie that's not as famous, I guess, or not as mainstream, I guess.
Hmm.
Maybe take a chance on something like, of course, Hills Have Eyes isn't one of the most, notable horror films, but maybe that's why it was kind of, why people, say that the remake is better. I don't know. It's
Or even
interesting.
Texas for that matter. There's a lot of Texas fans out there, you know. When I remember when the remake first came out and everyone was going to see it, I honestly didn't know anything about really horror films. I think I was just getting into collecting horror around that time period
Mhm.
when that remake came out and watched it, and I think I went to the movie theaters to see that one, and I was blown away. And I don't think I had watched the original at the time before I watched that remake. And so I had a mindset that that was a really good film before even watching the original. I'm kind of glad that I went down that route, you know.
Yeah,
But because when I finally watched the original, it made me appreciate it that much more.
yeah, absolutely, man.
But so would you sit there and say that Cronenberg is more of a uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of an unrecognizable force from Canada. You got your big horror directors like Toby Hooper, Wes Craven. Even from Italy, Dario Argento and stuff like that. So you got these big names, and then you hear David Cronenberg. Would you feel that he was really uncredited in the horror genre?
Oh, for sure, man. Like I said, to me, in my opinion, he's criminally underrated. The fact that people don't talk about him as being a master of horror and being on you know, that upper tier is mind blowing to me because of his output. Yeah, I don't understand it. Like, um, he definitely is a master of horror to me. When you have guys that are considered masters of horror that have only really done one horror film, I mean, it just blows me away. Like, I don't get it. Um, and then Cronenberg doesn't get the credit. I don't know if it's got anything to do with him, you know, shooting films in Canada and this and that. Whatever excuse you might, I don't. It doesn't matter to me because to me, in my heart of hearts, he's always going to be, one of my favorite horror directors of all time, one of the best horror directors of all time. I mean, and for sure in that conversation is the best when it comes to just horror directors in general. Like he would definitely be up there for me.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
I mean, I love his
And,
films.
and, I like I said, as a young child, um, I didn't really know what I was watching at the time.
Yeah.
Obviously, I watched The Fly, and I didn't realize that that was a David Cronenberg film. And I guess back then I didn't really know the appreciation for directors and stuff like that. But overall, I can honestly say that since I've started watching his films more through collecting over the years, yeah, he's up there for me. He's right there with Ramiro and Carpenter and Craven and all them.
Yep, and yeah, for sure. Because I'm my favorite. I love Italian horror, so Argento and Fulci and Bava for me are up there with Carpenter, and then Cronenberg's in there with me too, and then Romero. Like those are my core right there. Like
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure. And like I said, he's in there. Like no doubt about it. He's one of the best to ever do it. In my humble opinion, like he just he is. I mean, his work to me, I don't really have to say because his work speaks for itself. I mean,
yeah, it does.
it's kind of an easy just watch his films and they'll speak for themselves.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely agree to that.
I just wish he was still doing it, man. I wish he was still out there directing horror. Man, especially now, you would think like what he would have to say with what's going on nowadays, like it would just be great to see, but unfortunately he's just not doing it. And it's one of those things. It's like, if only I could, you know, have a couple more horror films from him.
Well, it looks like he's actually working currently on a film called Falling. I think he's actually acting in that. But it
Okay.
looks like, oh, okay. So acting, he's also acting in a TV series Star Trek right now. It says
Oh,
2020, 2021. So
well, I had no idea.
his last film that he directed was, I believe, back in 2014. Yeah, it's a short film called Consumed,
Hmm.
and that was back in 2014. So yeah, David Cronenberg, if you're listening, we want
Yeah,
we want to see something from you.
he
But
was listening. It's fucking.
hey, you never know.
uh, you're right. You never know.
Um, what about his sequels to his films? Um, I think we kind of hit on this a couple times on the last episodes, but I really would have loved to see him do some of his sequels. I don't know so much Scanners. I didn't even know there was sequels out there for Scanners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was just a standalone film until we started digging in. Um, but I really, obviously I knew about The Fly too, and I really wish that, looking back, that he had done The Fly too. But
Yeah.
I think they paid a lot of homage to him as well because it was almost shot like it was a David Cronenberg film from what I can remember.
Right. Well, his I think his name was Chris Wallace. Chris
Mm.
Wallace, something like that. He was the special effects artist in The Fly, and his work, I guess, was so good. I mean, they gave him the chance to direct The Fly too, which is pretty cool. Um, which, like you said, who knows if Cronenberg would have helmed it, it could have been. I mean, I haven't seen The Fly 2 it seems like 5, 6 years, something like that. So it's been a while for me. I remember it being pretty good. I remember one scene in particular just crushing me and killing me. Um, which we know what scene in particular that would be, but Yeah, it's interesting that the effects guy for the original or Cronenberg's The Fly directed the sequel. It's pretty cool.
Hmm. That's
Very
really cool.
very very bizarre. So I mean, I guess like his effects were so good. They're like, hey, you want to direct the sequel? At least we can get you in for the effects. I mean,
So let me ask you this: what film that you've seen that you kind of wish that David Cronenberg had his hands on?
ooh, just any film in general.
Yeah, sure.
Oh wow, ooh man, ooh, that's a good question. Um, wow, dude, that one's tough. I would love to see. You know what I really would love to see, and I've been on a kick lately. I would love to see Cronenberg like do another H.P. Lovecraft or a H.P. Lovecraft adaptation of something. Like
Uh,
maybe I'm just throwing this out there. I don't know, but maybe like a Cronenberg Dunwich Horror or something like that would be pretty cool.
yeah,
Just off the top of my head, I would just love to see Cronenberg do H.P. Lovecraft since he's the master of body horror. I would just love to see that. That would be just amazing to see.
yeah. Actually, there's one film that kind of triggers the mind a little bit that I wouldn't have mind seeing. What was that film? Oh, Jeffrey Combs, where he had the thing pop out of his forehead. What was that film?
No, From Beyond.
Yes, that's it.
I just recently saw that.
I mean, could you honestly picture Cronenberg doing that film?
It would literally blow my mind to where that shit would come out of my head. Like I would have an antenna protruding from my forehead. That shit would be bonkers.
Yeah, or
I
even
would I
even
would love to
him
see
playing.
her do
Even he
something.
could have played like Doctor Hill or something too.
Yeah, I could see that. Like unfortunately Stuart Gordon has passed, but Stuart Gordon kind of Cronenberg kind of tag team in something that would be pretty cool
Hmm.
to see them do something together. That'd been pretty neat. And then get Jeffrey Combs involved. Oh man, what could have been? That would have been fucking awesome.
That would have been something interesting.
Oh hell yeah.
I would have liked seeing Jeffrey Combs in one of his films.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That
mean
would have shined.
he fits in with that charismatic, eccentric kind of larger than life personality actor that he usually gravitates for his leads. So yeah, that would make
Oh,
a lot of sense.
well, again, you know, so something about Cronenberg films that's very sci-fi-ish, but yet horror. And Jeffrey Combs, he likes to play in those type of films.
Mm-hmm.
Very sci-fi-ish, but yet, I think I even watched an interview with Jeffrey Combs where he talked about how he liked acting in like sci-fi-ish slash horror films. Because he said something about he could get the best of both worlds when it comes to fans. Because there's always the sci-fi fans that approach him, and then there's always horror fans that approach him.
Definitely. Oh yeah, for sure.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Still,
absolutely. That'd
still
be
could
really
happen. Still could happen one day.
yeah, like I said, dude. Like I said, that anything's possible. I would. It's wishful thinking on my part just to have him dip his toes back into the horror realm and direct a couple more. That's just me just being a fan and just wanting more from him. Not to say that he hasn't given me enough, but just what he's given me is so good. I just want to see more.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
yeah.
Well, does you have any more to say about David Cronenberg?
Man, we've this month has been fun, dude. I really enjoyed you know, sticking to, going through, doing the double features with the reviews and then just finishing it up with The Fly and just talking about his filmography and where he's come from and his thought process and everything. And it's just been a great month. I love doing this retrospective. Had a blast with it. Was good to do this and then finally see The Dead Zone, a Cronenberg film I have never seen, so that was fun. It's been a fun month, dude. I enjoyed this immensely. But yeah, I think we've pretty much covered a good amount. I mean, I could talk Cronenberg all day, every day, but like I said, it's just been a blast talking about him in general and just discussing his legacy. He does have a legacy. He is, and I still don't understand why he's so underrated. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Yeah, same here. Well, I mean, he flew under the radar with so many films. I didn't honestly, like I said before, I didn't know much about Rabbit or Shivers. Pretty much the only thing that I really knew from him was The Fly. So this month doing the review and stuff, and then leading up to this episode, it's pretty much really opened my eyes to him and like I said, Canadian cinema in general.
Yeah, that's cool, dude. That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
you definitely seek out seek out some more Canadian Canuck exploitation.
Well, it seems like a lot of films are a lot of good films and decent films are coming from Canada these days too. So I'm quite happy with the cinema that's coming from there.
Yeah.
Even like I said, nowadays, we got films coming out that are really good from there.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
Hope,
Absolutely. I can't agree with that. Can't agree with more with that.
And then I got high hopes for Brandon. I'm hoping Brandon does a lot more.
Yeah.
It seems like he took some time off, between films. So
I think it's kind of hard I think it had a lot to do with funding and in Canada it's kind of harder to fund these productions and stuff like that. So it's probably why he has such a gap between Antiviral and Possessor. I'm not 100% sure on that. I may have heard something about that, but if that's the case, man, studios need to get on it with Brandon because he's progressing as a filmmaker and he's gonna shine. He's gonna be really really good.
yeah,
He's gonna carve out his own legacy if he keeps his pace.
yeah. I'm just hoping he's doesn't pan himself too far in between to where he kind of sinks. I hope he's not going to be like another Lombardo Bava.
Yeah. Well, what I'm worried about is that little trend that they're on now is when they, a really good genre director has some good outputs and stuff like they pluck him. The studios will pluck him to do like a Marvel movie or something like that, or something more mainstream. Like I hope he doesn't, get pulled into that. But I don't know. I just want to see, want to see more horror from the Cronenbergs. Say that.
Yeah.
I would love to see more. I'm hooked.
Yeah, same here. Well, um, yeah, I think I'm ready to land the plane. Um,
Lander.
well, folks, you've been listening to the Midnight Monster Corner podcast, and we appreciate you listening in on us. And join us next week. We're gonna start things off. We're gonna do zombies next month. So all zombie reviews and leading up to the history of the zombie film. I think we're gonna kick things off with Dawn of the Dead. So a review from Dawn of the Dead. That's gonna be a fun one. Tony, you
Oh,
looking forward to that?
oh, fuck yeah! Definitely looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be a great one. I can't wait. Um, but yeah, folks, like I said, you can join us on all our social media. Facebook. We're constantly putting out stuff throughout the week on there. You can check us out on pretty much any platform, and we thank you for listening. And if your friends are horror fans and they don't know about podcasts, you should plug our podcast to them and and get this ball rolling. We appreciate everything that you guys have been doing, and keep listening, and we'll keep producing.
Absolutely. We really appreciate all the support from from our listeners and stuff. It's been awesome. It's been mind blowing and eye opening, and we're just gonna keep going down this rabbit hole, man. Keep making it happen for you guys. Keep putting stuff out for you. Yeah. And like I said in the group, the guys in the group, if what's your favorite Cronenberg film? A film that really resonates with you and that really sticks with you. Kind of like what Possessor did with me. I mean, I know it's Brandon's movie, but still, or Scanners or Videodrome, and all those movies stuck with me after watching them, and I thought about them. So, if you guys had that same experiences, please, comment in the group. What your favorite film is from him.
Definitely. Yeah, generate a conversation, guys. But with that, later, fellas.